Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everyone that's here and all the Chaver that are with us online. See, there's a lot of new faces here, so Shalom Aleichem, greetings everybody. Okay, Yofi. So first of all, tonight we continue to learn for the Refuah Shlema of Michal Moshe Zev ben Yehudi, Binyamin Nachman Mordechai ben Ilana, Natan Daniel ben Malka, and also tonight's shir is going to be the Leilui Nishmat Shmuel Aaron ben Chaim. This was Zelda's nephew. Unfortunately left the world right before Shabbos. I'm not sure if she's going to be showing up, but she's not here. No. But this is Zelda's nephew in America. Anyways, Neshama should have an aliyah and nachas from all of us learning the Leilui Nishmato right now. So this happens to be one of my favorite parashiyot to learn and definitely to teach, by far. There are so many topics in this parsha, beginning with the first few words, Vayhi Beshalach Paro, and it was when Paro sent Am Yisrael, and everyone wonders, what do you mean Paro sent? He didn't exactly send them. And you have the story of the manna coming down from heaven, and obviously the crossing of the Red Sea. Amalek shows up at the end. There are so many things in this parsha. But like last night in Achlaot, we were learning about tefillah, and what it really takes in tefillah is to be committed. So I was asking, who was Esther, you were there, who else was there last night? Huh? You were there. Yeah, you were there. Right. We were asking, like, does anyone have issues? Is anyone afraid of commitment? And I was asking that in Achlaot, it's single central, But why? Because it ties into davening, and that question ties into obviously tonight's learning as well, where Chazal teaches in the Gemara, Kashin Zivugim Kikriyas Yamsuf, that crossing over the Red Sea is as hard as, it's the same thing, it's mamish as hard as finding your zivug, finding your soulmate in this world as well. So, in recent years, we would learn, in my opinion, one of the most concrete, the fundamental teachings in Rabbi Shlomo's Road of Torah, which was the Torah of can you change for someone else? That's the whole story of the dry land, water becoming dry land, and the level of zivugim also. Sometimes we're water, we have to become dry land, or if we're dry land, we have to become water. We did it a few times over the last 3-4 years, both in Yerushalayim and both here. But tonight, I wanted to look at the whole story of Kriyat Yamsuf a little bit differently. Just a reminder. Last year, we learned something crazy. We learned that the whole point in the first few psukim, when we see that Am Yisrael, Hashem tells Am Yisrael, okay, turn back, v'yashuvu v'yachanu lifnei piach irot. As they're leaving, Hashem tells them, okay, start heading backwards now. And it's the whole Torah of that Hashem wanted Am Yisrael to take one more look at evil, to make sure they don't get confused too fast and forget evil. Because we have an illness, Rabbi Shlomo said, that as people, we forget how evil our enemies really are to us, and we're so quick to think that, we probably didn't read them correctly, probably, that slavery, that was just their way of showing affection. That's an Egyptian culture to, taking babies, it was just this ritual that they did, that's for sure, because the Midrash tells us that we already started having these deaths. Was it really that bad there? Was it really that bad? Like a lot of people, that are stuck in really poisonous relationships always tell me, I'm just so nervous that the second that I call it quits, I'm going to look back and I'm going to say, was it really that bad as I thought it was? Was it really that bad? So, that was last year. This year we're going to look at the whole thing from a different angle. But first wanted to just share this Torah that I saw by the Kotzker Rebbe many years ago. I think before I moved back here, it was many years ago, maybe 13, 14 years ago, I saw the Torah by the Kotzker Rebbe. And it's one of these teachings that if you don't have a Rebbe to explain to you what it means, it could mamish mess you up big time. So the Kotzker Rebbe says that every morning in the Shacharit prayers, what do we read? We read Shirat Hayam, we read the crossing of the Red Sea. What we're going to be learning about, what we're already learning about in the Parsha. What we're going to be reading this coming Parsha. And the Kotzker Rebbe says that whoever doesn't feel that they're willing to just be Nachshon ben Aminadav and jump into the Red Sea today, he can't really go through his day, and he can't really. I'm not sure if the Lashon was he shouldn't even bother continuing to daven, although that would sound like a real kotzker void. Like, listen, you're getting up to Shirat Hayam. It's right before Birkas Kriyat Shema. We did this whole, ascending in Psukei de Zimra to make you get to a place of, are you Nachshon or not? Will you jump in or not? So now ask yourself, are you willing to jump in the Red Sea? If so, you have entry and now you feel close to God and say Shema Yisrael and daven Shemona Esrei. If you're not willing to jump, then, sorry, you could continue davening, but it really won't make any difference in your life. You'll just be Yotze Yechiyuv, but it has nothing to do with anything relevant in your life. So I'm reading that, and I start wondering, oh my God, there's no way in the world I'd be that first guided. I would never be Nachshon, I know myself. I could never jump into the Red Sea. Or at least I could never, as far as I know, I doubt I'd be first. So for years, whenever I got to Shirat Hayam in davening, it really messed me up. So I think though, Baruch Hashem, after many years of realizing that there are a lot of other Torahs that messed me up, that there's a little bit of healing coming along through that, but definitely there's healing when it comes to understanding crossing of the Red Sea through the eyes of Rabbi Shlomo. That is a tremendous, tremendous healing. Bichlal, when it comes to many of Rabbi Shlomo's teachings, that he explains something that in the past, when you learned it put awe, terror, and fear in your life, then the way that he learned it out was just so sweet, like sugar. So there's a healing in that way. Like last night, I know there was a boy that came to the shir that he grew up getting mamish hit every time he didn't, know where his place was in the siddur in Borough Park somewhere. And he left after 3 minutes of the shir in the beginning, and I realized that I think I said a word in the same pronunciation, the way that they used to say it when he was in Cheder. And it freaked him out so much that he checked out of there. It happens quite often. I'll give you a great example of how the way we learn things when we're younger, how they can mess us up so much and be so chaval. I was driving up to Tzfat for Shabbos about 7-8 years ago to do a Shabbaton for a yeshiva, and I had a few guys in the car with me. I think one of them was going to play with me up there. I grew up in Ranana and in Los Angeles, and he grew up we're back to Borough Park for some reason, he grew up in Borough Park, he grew up in Brooklyn. So I said, wow, I haven't been to Tzfas. I said, Tzfas, okay? I said, I haven't been to Tzfas in so long. And he got so mad, he said, no, Tzfas. And he grew up, there's no way in the world he grew up saying Tzfat, okay? Not a chance in the world. He said, what do you mean Tzfat? Tzfas? Tzfat. And it got like, and I realized, when you say Tzfat, I get a little bit agitated. And when I say Tzfas, I see it was bothering him. Now, where are we meeting? What's going on? I grew up in the world that when people said Tzfat, it turned me off. I had to go through my own world of Rabbi Shlomo, Tzfat. And it for some reason we're saying the same word, but the sound of it just changed completely for me. He grew up saying Tzfas, or whatever the word was with the saf. He can't hear it. His tshuva is to say things in Ivrit with a taf. It's pretty messed up, what I just said right now, but been thinking about this for a while, there's so many Torahs that because the sound of it, because of what it triggers in us, it blocks us from being able to receive the beauty of it, of what it's really all about. And all we're trying to do in this world is to get over all the nuances, to get over all the ways that things sound, and to get to what the meaning behind it makes you feel. So whenever I think about Shirat Hayam for crossing the Red Sea, and I'm always start getting nervous again, saying, would I jump in or not? My mom is always thinking about this, would I jump in or not? But maybe we'll see after tonight that question isn't that scary anymore. It's actually a very welcoming and loving question, as opposed to being a very threatening question. So remember also last year, one of the things we pointed out was that, that we didn't cross the Red Sea, remember? Remember the Torah? We went into the water, but we ended up on the same side. So everyone keeps on talking about crossing the Red Sea, but we didn't cross them. We didn't go into the water and then end up on the other side. We went into the Red Sea, And we ended up exactly on the side that we jumped into, which to me was a complete chiddush last year. I couldn't believe it. I never knew it. But really, if you look at it on a map, and someone showed me this at Tosfos, that a Tosfos even he draws this up in the Gemara. Tosfos has a little tziyur showing exactly what it looked like, that they went into the water, all the mishigas happened, and then they came out exactly on the same side. You know why? If they would have ended up on the other side, it wouldn't, there's no way in the world, unless they walked like, old buggies, that it would take them as long as they did, because they were that much closer. Anyway, we're going to look at that, we're going to touch upon it again tonight, I think, about why did we end up going to the water? This whole test of, we didn't even cross to the other side. So, and I'm really, it's really what you did, with the siddur that you brought is really freaking me out, because this Breslov siddur that I just got a gift, because this Breslov siddur is called, it's called Tfilah Lekel Chayai, davening to the God of my life. So the teaching that we're going to be learning tonight is actually based on where this teaching came from, the 9th teaching in Likutei Moharan, which discusses what it means what it meant to jump into Yam Suf, and how the whole story of Shirat Hayam is a whole story of tefillah. It's a whole story of prayer, which is making me very happy considering what we've been learning in Simchat Shlomo the last few weeks. I think for those of you who live in Yerushalayim, there's going to be one more shiur next week. Okay. Everyone has, right? All right. This is a really, really special teaching. Very, very special. I just found it before Shabbos on an old tape. So it's always special learning something for the first time that was ever learned. Besides the time when Rabbi Shlomo verbally gave it over in 1984, these Torahs were never learned. It's the first time this Torah Sheba'al Peh became Torah Shebichtav, and we're learning it. So it's a big shechi. It's awesome. It's an incredible. Imagine like people picking up Likutei Moharan for the first time and learning the first time for Reb Nachman's words in writing. To me, it's the same thing what we're doing right now. That we're learning something that Reb Shlomo gave over orally 30, 40 years ago, and we're learning it bichtav. We're learning it written for the first time. What I try to do every week is usually do stuff for the first time. So that's why I always feel like I'm tripping face after everyone leaves, because it's like it's a very powerful experience. Okay, Reb Shlomo says like this. Let me ask you one of the most important questions in the world. What's important enough for you that you would change for it? Well, that's a very powerful question. It's a very Reb Shlomo Nusach kind of way. I know it's not normal English. I'm going to try. The hardest job with this Torah is how do you keep the editing, keeping his lashon, keeping his language, and yet making it somewhat understandable. So again, what is important enough for you that you would change for it? Now, in the modern world, that word change is mamish puzzle. It's like a horrible word. What do you mean change? God created me, I am what I am, and if you have a problem, that's your problem, but I'm not supposed to change. There shouldn't be any changing. I am what I am, and it's perfect. But he's saying over here something so deep, that when things are really, really that important to us, how do we know how important something is to us? How much are we willing to change? Now, what exactly to change is what we're going to be discussing tonight. Okay? Change shouldn't be a threatening thing. It's not a threatening thing. Our lives we're always changing. Not changing the essence of who we are. That you can't change the essence of you. You're born with a certain set of your DNA. You have a certain something that you're born with. We're not talking about, today everyone's changing every single part of them, physically these days. It's a very, far out world. But we're talking about something much, much different, I think much deeper. What is the change that we're speaking about is going to be the topic of tonight. But the question is there anything in life, think about it in your own life. Has there been anything in your life that it was that monumental, it was that important for you, that you mamish changed. My wife and I talk about it all the time. There's one couple that we know that I kind of like cringe every time I see a picture of them married, because I remember them when they were before they were married, and I remember that the girl was already in a certain place in her life and the guy wasn't, and it was very clear that in order for him to get her, he needed to change. And maybe it's like a very negative part of me that whenever I look at him, I'm like, wow, you just changed. You became someone else just to get the girl. But what I'm realizing is, this first question is, was it that important for her to get her? Absolutely. So did he, is that a bad thing that he changed in order to get the girl? Well, the question is, what did he change? Did he put on a show with his change just to get the girl? Or did the change, is the change mamish, real and natural? Okay, next question. Every slave wants to be free. Every poor man wants to be rich. But the question is, are you willing to change for it? How much does it mean to you? Meaning, every poor schlepper would love to have money, but the fact that he wants that is a given. What is he willing to do in order to change whatever he has to change in his life in order to get that? Same thing with people that are enslaved, that feel like they're trapped and that they're slaves. What are you willing to do in order to stop being a slave? When we came out of Egypt, we were slaves and then we became free. But when did we actually change? Okay, this is an important thing to remember. When we came out of Mitzrayim until Kriyat Yamsuf, now in the Torah's chronology, there's not really a lot of space there. How much time from the moment that we left Egypt till the story of our Parsha?
Our Parsha? A week.
Shvi Shel Pesach is when, right?
Yeah.
So there's a week that we're out of Egypt, but nothing really changed. We're physically out of Egypt. But Ribono Shel Olam knew, I can even give them the Torah right now, it wouldn't mean anything to you. It would mean nothing to you guys. Kind of like the way I feel, that if right now the Beis HaMikdash was given to us, it might be the worst thing that ever happened in the world. Think about it. If the Beis HaMikdash was just given to us, but the consciousness didn't change in the Am, then that would be a horrible, horrific thing. Chas v'chalila. God forbid. So, Hashem already had these free, he had people that were free, no one standing over them, but the slave mentality did not leave them. They needed to do something. They needed to approach a certain question and deal with a certain question in order so that the freedom that they were now open to taste, that they'd actually be able to taste it as well. I know a lot, I never forget this. My father, when I was younger, my dad had a simcha band he used to play with all the time in Ranana. It was one of his musicians, a horn player. Got married a little bit later in life, and my father asked him, after he saw him for the first time, after he got married, he said, how's married life? He said, תודה, חיים, פשוט יש מישהי אחרת עכשיו, בחיים. He said, same thing, life is life, but there's just someone else that I'm living with right now. So is that person married? Okay, he's married, if they get divorced, they'll have to give a get. But is he married? So it just shows how you can get away with anything in this world in terms of saying, I did it, or I didn't do it. It's like such an easy thing. I could say I got married. I didn't get married. I'm not married. There's not a Brit Nisuim. So again, when we came out of Egypt, we were slaves, and then we became free. But when did we actually change? Only when we stood by the Red Sea. Like only mamish, but something happened by Kriyas Yamsuf, which changed our psychological status, every status of our being, and it's taking many, many years for us to fully get out of it, but something changed our status from being an Eved to a Ben Chorim. Something changed. Now listen to this deepest depths. Man, created in God's image means, what does that mean that someone is created in God's image? It means that whatever we're doing, nature is doing too. Okay, I had a hard time, I was thinking about this for an hour today with this sentence. And I checked a few times to see if this is actually what he said. And these are the words that he said. That being created in God's image means that whatever I do, nature also does. What do you think that means? How do you understand that? But please raise your hand and don't jump into someone else's words. Again, whatever we're doing, nature is doing too. You know, I think we have to keep on reading for a little bit, and maybe we'll go back to it and understand. Why do you think the water suddenly changed to dry land? Because we changed. When we came out of Egypt, we thought it was a beautiful thing to be free. It was great. But it didn't necessarily change who we were. There are a lot of things we find beautiful, but we don't become them. But when we stood by the Red Sea, and there was no way of getting away from the Egyptians, we said, Ribono Shel Olam, freedom really is so important for us. We would do anything for it. Anything in the world. So first of all, it's just an important thing. This connects us to recent years of learning. The sea split for one reason. The sea split because it saw people that were willing to split as well. The water was willing to become dry land. You know, just metaphorically speaking, the water was willing to become dry land because it saw people that were willing to mamish change, that they would do whatever it would take to throw away the slave mentality and become free people. Am Yisrael knew there's no way to go. I'm at the end. I have no options. I got nothing here. The slave mentality tells me, it was a nice try, time to walk back. A free person who could believe that free person believes that anything is possible. The water sees a slave starting to think like a free person. For them, I'm willing to change. Okay? So that's just in a nutshell, that whole teaching we did a few years ago about the condition that God made with the water when it created the water, that one day the water would have to split. But when the Midrash says that when the water saw the people that it was supposed to split before, it turned to God and said, are you kidding me for these nebuchs? I'm going to change my nature for these nebuchs? Look what they look like, these slaves. But then the water saw people that realized they're pushed to the corner, and they must have said this prayer to Hashem before. Ribono Shel Olam, freedom really is so important for us. We would do anything for it, anything in the world. Have you ever had a moment like that in your life, that you were pushed to the corner, and you really said to the Ribono Shel Olam, I will do anything for it in the world, without thinking about already Hataras Nadarim for Yom Kippur, while you're saying it, right? Without giving all these promises and saying, I can get out of it by Yom Kippur, especially making these promises in the third month of Elul, right? No, I'm talking about like in Cheshvan or in Kislev, where you're really starting fresh and you realize, I would do anything in order to taste whatever this is right now that I'm longing for. Did you ever have that? Okay. Chavre, just you should know. There's no one put a mute button on anyone in here tonight. Like, feel free to share it. Like, the last thing is, this is not like a darshaning here. If there's something, people, you should know. Almost every shiur, someone comes up to me after shiur with the most incredible insight on what we were learning. Almost every shiur. And every shiur, I ask them, are you kidding me? Is there a reason is there a reason you're enjoying, I say, are you enjoying this gzelas das? Meaning, are you enjoying this robbing of, how do you say gzelas das? This, it's like you're stealing, it's like you're taking, it's like you're preventing people from getting deep, from learning stuff deeper. So if there's something that's speaking to you, like I'm mamash begging you, please share it. Please speak up, okay? Even if it's getting too much, don't worry, I'll shut you up. Okay, but please, at least, please just be real. Okay, so look at the question now. And now it's going to come more to life. So what is it that we ended up doing that made us change for it? What is it, Tachlis? What is this change that we're speaking about? What did Hashem need us to change so badly? Besides this becoming, what does it mean to become a free person, Michlal? How do you become a free person? I'm going to make a change. I'm going to become a free person. What does that even mean? And what does it mean in the context of our Parsha? Everyone knows that means classic Rabbi Shlomo language. Nobody knows. When he says that, right? Everyone knows when we crossed the Red Sea, there were 12 tunnels. Now, Celia, this is connected to what the Torah in Likutei Moharan, to Homos Yechasimu, the 9th teaching in Likutei Moharan. Rabbi Nachman brings this up based on the Gemara and the Midrash. That when we crossed the Yam Suf, one of the greatest miracles beyond miracles, there was like a miracle beyond a miracle, beyond a miracle, beyond a miracle. Shalom Aleichem. My chevra from New York, not for long, my friend, my chevra from soon to be Eretz Yisrael. Come. Sorry, it's hug time. I'm sorry, one second. Okay. Mikey. Yeah. Okay. So, this is again, when Rabbi Shlomo says everyone knows, it's not necessarily the emes at all. So this is based on this, again, this teaching in the Likutei Moharan, Rabbi Nachman, that Rabbi Shlomo says like this, in the name of the tzaddik, in the name of everyone, is that one of the greatest miracles that took place in Kriyas Yam Suf is that when we crossed the sea split into 12 minarot, into 12 tunnels. When he said everyone knows, no. People don't really know that, they just think they just jumped into water and that was it. So there's something very, very important about this whole inyan. This is based on the 9th teaching, Telmos Yichasimu. So Rabbi Shlomo says like this, everyone knows when we crossed the Red Sea there were 12 tunnels. Every tribe had their own tunnel. And here he says, Gewalting, these tunnels were, so to speak, made out of glass. And the tribes could see each other. Why was it so important that these tunnels were made out of glass? Look what he says here. This is so sweet. This is so him. He says, imagine Reuven goes through a tunnel, and instead of wondering the whole time if Shimon and the others were drowning, they could see that everyone was taken care of. It's like the Rebbeinu Shalom knew that if I don't make these tunnels out of glass, the Shvatim will not go inside. Because they will not jump into Yam Suf unless, they won't jump into their own tunnel unless they're mamish certain that their brother is taken care of. There's no way they were just going to go and do this. En sikui. So the way that the tunnel was formed was mamish through glass. That Reuben's going down, he doesn't have to worry, wondering, oh my God, am I the only one? Because Rebbeinu Shalom knows that each one of the Shvatim, the Shiftei Ka, if they ended up on the other, well, not the other side, but because we already learned that they didn't end up on the other side, but if they ended up again on dry land and their brothers weren't there, no way in the world that they wouldn't have headed back to Egypt. En sikui. There's no way. So the tunnels are made out of glass for this reason. And every tribe had a different way of going through the water. Now the following is a very, very, very important yesod. And it's really shaykh to what I'm looking over here, I'm looking to what you just gave me. Saw this beautiful Nusach? It's amazing. So Nusach Sfard. I grew up davening Nusach Sfard, but today what do we usually have? We have Sfard Ashkenaz and Edot HaMizrach. Besides my friend Eric on the block, who he goes by Nusach, he found this Nusach Eretz Yisrael, this other Nusach. I don't know if you ever saw this Siddur.
Nusach Achid.
Nusach Achid, that's what it's called? No. Nusach Achid is what they give you in the army and say,
It's like, it's a hybrid.
Okay. So, but mainly this is what we have. And I heard Rabbi Shlomo say that that really each shevet had its own nusach of tefillah, and for a while we had it, and the only two nuschos that remained, the nusachs, the way you daven, that each one had its own style, the only two nusachs that remained were shevet Yehuda and Binyamin. Those are the only two shvat. I don't know why, I have no idea why, but whatever we have today, is basically a remnant of Shevet, of the Nusach of Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Binyamin. By the way, do you know that like some of the tzaddikim, they mamish felt they really knew what Shevet they were from? Like today, what Shevet I know what I'm from, but that's not because I feel it. It's because I'm a Kohen, so I know I'm from Levi, but what Shvatim are we really from today that we know of? Huh? And Levi. Right? Okay, now, the Bnei Yisachar is a good story. It's really Melech, everyone knows. Catch, right? Catch again? No, not everyone knows. That he was every year, the 5th night of Hanukkah, he was flying like a mashur. He couldn't stay in his, he was experiencing the Neres Hanukkah out of this world. Every year, the 5th night of Hanukkah. And he finally went to his Rebbe. Who was his Rebbe? The Rebbe Yaakov Yitzchak Horowitz, the Sir of Lublin, the Chayzer. And he says to the Chayzer, I need pshat, what's the story? Why is it the 5th, every year, the 5th night? And the Heilige Chayzer, who could see from one corner of the world to the other, says to the Rebbe Tzvi Melech of Dinov, he says to him, listen, you're Shaish Neshama, you come from Shevet Yisachar. And today, the Nasi that we read of in Chanukah, in the learning, in the reading of the Torah, is from the Nasi Livnei Yisachar. Hence the name that he chose for his Sefer, Bnei Yisachar. It comes from that. He has a lot of other Sfarim, amazing Sfarim. But the main Sefer that we know him for is not Eged de Kala, Eged de Parka, and Derech Pikudecha. It's his Bnei Yisachar because he sensed where he was from. That's so. You could try, but I don't think if you go home and really concentrate, it'll whatever. You know what? A slave says you can't figure that out. A free person says maybe I could sense what shevet I'm in. So back inside, every tribe had a different way of going through the water. Now, next paragraph. So the question is, why couldn't all the Yidden go in one tunnel? Why separately? So you know what it is? Everybody, this is a classic Rabbi Shlomo statement. Everyone's putting on tefillin. Everybody's hopefully keeping Shabbos. But when do you become an individual? In order to become an individual, you have to cross the Red Sea in the manner in which we are discussing tonight. In almost every, I would say, what we learn, you should know. When we're learning a quantity of maybe 5 minutes of Reb Shlomo teaching we spend an hour and a half, usually on like 5 to 7 minutes out of classes that are sometimes 90 minutes. Sometimes we're learning a little piece that he said between songs on stage. But in almost every single piece that is more than just the 5 to 7 minutes, it's the full-on thing, Reb Shlomo has, he always takes every single teaching to Tikkun Eitz Hadas, always. Fixing the tree, every story in the Torah always has to do with understanding how we're fixing through each story in the Torah Eitz Hadas, every single parsha. But he always goes to the Torah of the individual, always. And he always says that we live in a world that on the one hand I have to do what everyone has to do. We have Chasdei Hashem and the Shulchan Aruch. And Reb Shlomo said, and this might be puzzling for some people, I would not change one letter of the Shulchan Aruch. Okay? We can talk about that another time. So we have a Shulchan Aruch we have to go by. Each of us. I wake up in the morning and wash my hands, say Netilas Yadayim, and you have to. But then there's this Indian that it only woke up mainly in the last 100 years or so. Really, the Baal Shem Tov planted the seed for it, but it really started waking up in the last 100 years. And we're talking a lot about this in the Rav Kook Shirim in the morning. It was never a time like this now that people actually walk around thinking about what's the tachlis of what's the special thing that's just about me. It wasn't like this. My grandmother that jumped off the train on the way to Auschwitz, I don't think she ever thought, what is that one nekuda that only I could bring to the world? And we live in a world, this whole generation, you and I, we're thinking all the time, okay, I know I have to do like everybody else, but what is that one thing which only I could do in this world?
That was the Chanukah shir with a candle. So each candle has its own light.
Yeah, I don't remember even.
Yeah. Very touching.
So this is an amazing. But we understand the chiddush is that this is a chiddush. This dar is we're thinking about it more than ever. And he spoke about it all the time. You could give someone back their life when you reveal to them that they're not just a bagel out of a dozen bagels, that there's something else. That it cannot be that you're just supposed to do what everyone else is supposed to be doing. Parshat can't be. Now when you're a slave, you have no sense of individuality whatsoever. Nothing. And one of the most important kelim to attain in order to be a ben chorin, a free person, is being in touch with that which only you are supposed to do in this world. Last night I had this amazing talk with this kid. He's early 20s. He called me, wanted to meet up. I met with him right before Shir last night in the parks there by Simchat Shlomo. And I asked him what he does. And he told me he's a plumber. I promise you that when he said, I'm a plumber, I felt like the way he said it made me feel that there is no plumber like him in the world. But that's not really what it was, because then when we were talking more about life, he said, you asked me before, I said I'm a plumber. I'm not a plumber, it's what I do, right? I know there's something much, much deeper going on inside. But you can even be, this is Rabbi Shlomo's Torah, you can even be the only plumber in the world the way that you do it. See, the Torah of the individual could mess us up big time. Why? Because we could walk around saying, I got to do something that never existed ever in the world. And you spend most of your life trying to do something that you're not even supposed to be doing. But you just want to be different. You want to be a yachid. But really the beauty is that which people have been doing for years, your individuality can come to life by the fact that the way that you do it, no one else ever did it. Imagine, Chassan and Kala hear the Torah of the individual, that everyone has to be individual, everyone has to be different. So they spend most of their married life trying to live a married life that's different than everything they ever saw in their life. Right? It's not what we're talking about. It means that the way that they look into each other's eyes, the Torah they bring down to their children, is different than anything they were ever told, taught, or saw in their whole life. But you can only do that as a ben charim. You can only do that as a free person. And the Ribbono Shel Olam needed this am that he was in the middle of making into an am. He needed this am to also be individuals. Had to be. Because now, as a slave, it's okay. I could hide behind my base av. And it's funny, it's interesting. We go through the counting of the matos over there again. I think it's in the beginning of Parshat Va'era and Sheni already. Right after Moshe Rabbeinu has that whole back and forth Ribbono Shel Olam, we start counting ourselves again, just to remind ourselves we're part of something. But now we're not going to be counted as people for a while, because now it's the individual. So look what Rabbi Shlomo says here. And here I want you to know something. At one point, I met someone who used to have a lot of money and then lost it all. By the way, I have a great recording on the Moshav in the early 90s where Rabbi Shlomo met someone who eventually moved to the Moshav, and the guy's name, I forgot what his name is, Rabbi Shlomo met him, the guy said, oh, my name is Nachum, or whatever his name was. But then the guy remembered, when I first met Rabbi Shlomo, I went up to him in my English name. So he went up, he was on the Moshav, and he said, oh, Shalom Aleichem, I'm Nachum, let's say. He said, I used to be rich, meaning his name was Richard. He said, and then every single person in the Moshav started cracking up and saying, yeah, story of our life too. Shlomo said also, the story of my life too. It was great. It was a great moment right there. At one point I met someone who used to have a lot of money and then lost it all. This actually happened. He said this. He had just come back from England and there was a horrible recession taking place there. So this Yidla, maybe one of your chaverim, hopefully not your father, he asked me what he should do to get out of his situation. So I said to him, promise God that when God gives you money again, you will do something you never did before. Isn't that special? What an eitzah, huh? What a powerful word. So now open your hearts. Reb Nachman says, whenever you're at the end, You have to say, obviously, everything I did so far did not prevent me from getting to this place. That means you, Ribono Shleilam, you want something from me which I never did before. Yeah, that's a very, just to meditate on those words. This is such a breakthrough in the way that we understand the world of tefillah and bichlal, trying to understand why we go through what we go through. Can you imagine stopping, instead of being like the anger factor, how could you do this to me? You stop for a second and you say, okay, obviously, I don't have shmirah. I didn't have shmirah because if I had proper shmirah, proper guarding, I wouldn't have gone to this place. And Rabbi Shlomo says this in another place also when it comes to someone's illness. If someone's mamish ill and all the tefillahs, whatever it is, it didn't work. The person has to say, okay, I realize everything I did. Whatever I've been through, whatever people have done for me, obviously it's not enough. So, when you give me the koyach and I get out of this illness, or when you give me the money so I can get out of my own balagan, I could breathe, I'm going to do something that I never did before. And that connects you to this tefillah, this is what it is, to this tefillah l'kel chayai, Reb Nachman says there in the ninth Torah. This connects us to davening in a completely different plane. My friend Nachman Fullerman once told me, he said, when you really need parnasa, you say the Ribono Shleilam, you start telling the Ribono Shleilam, you start making these not tnaim, but you kind of say, okay, Ribono Shleilam, when you do send parnasa my way, he's getting some, that institution's getting some. I don't know, I grew up, I'm sure many of you also in school, I would write down a certain number that I would hypothetically win in the lotto, and I already had all the lists every day of who would get what. You never did that? You never did it before? No? I don't know if it's a smart thing to do. It might be a very stupid thing to do because it might mess up your mind. I mean, I don't know. But I used to do it a lot in high school.
Shows a lot of a movement if you're already spending your money, and it's awesome.
Yeah, the shaila is though, and then when you do win, and then when you do win, yeah. Those people that you want to help so badly, and then you can't, but you feel like telling them you should know though. You're on that, You're on my list. And, you've been on every list I've been like 35 lists last month. You were on each one of them, and each time, you know how much I love you? You got more each time that I wrote a list. Nachman says, whenever you're at the end, you have to say, obviously, everything I did so far did not prevent me from getting to this place. That means you want something from me, which I never did before. And here I want you to know something so special. And this is the key to understanding the change which took place crossing the Red Sea. When we came out of Mitzrayim, we didn't promise God that we will build the Beis HaMikdash. By the way, what did we promise Hashem when we were leaving? What do we know about what was going on in the heart and the mind and in the dibur, in the speech of Yidla when he's leaving Mitzrayim? They're busy with a lot of mitzvahs. Hashem made them very busy, running around, taking bath, putting blood here, getting ready, telling stories. Hashem is amazing. He made them very, very busy with mitzvahs. Kind of the way that He makes us Motzei Yom Kippur, that we don't have too much time to think, was I forgiven, was I not forgiven, I could have done better, I'm still a Rasha. Be quiet, go and buy your daled minim, it could take you a long time, build your sukkah, put up the schach, just keep busy. But really, what was going on in the tzakas halev, like we were talking about last night, the screaming of the heart, what was going on? So Rabbi Shlomo said, when we came out of Egypt, we didn't promise God that we will build the Beis HaMikdash. We thought we would just be hidden, we would be from, we would be sweet and cute and start going to Israel. Right? All tziburi things, all chlali things, all general things. But when we got to the Red Sea, there was nowhere to go, which means that all those things that I have to do as an Am, right? All those things, even if they're holy things that I had in mind, didn't prevent me from reaching a danger zone, like we spoke about right now. Something happened as we saw. Well, we said we'll be part of this nation. I'll keep the Shulchan Aruch, I'll do mitzvahs. But what didn't happen? The need to find and express individuality. So you know what we said to ourselves when we're right there? There's one thing we never thought of doing, and that is to build a Beis HaMikdash. Wait a second, that's still a general thing. But then he says here that there should be mamish one place which is so untouched, not just physically, but also in my heart. Meaning, that whole thing of Asuli Mikdash v'shachanti b'socham v'toch kol echad ve'echad, there was a moment. This you have to realize again. If we want to go back to that Kutzker Torah we opened up with, if you're not willing to cross the Red Sea today, you might as well not even continue davening, right? Chas v'shalom. What does that mean for today? It means that if I'm not willing to do something that I never did before, then I'll just be a bagel. I'll get hashgacha, I'll be kosher, but that's not what God took me out of Mitzrayim for. And like Rabbi Shlomo would scream all the time, that is definitely not why God brought us back to Eretz Yisrael after 2,000 years. So that we could have a country and a state. So that we could be the flag of democracy in a very undemocratic region. That's not why we came here. To have a seat in the UN. We didn't come, for most of the reasons that we're here, this is not why we came back. Next paragraph, when we crossed the Red Sea, we each took upon ourselves something we had never done before. We took on individuality. When we came out of Egypt, we all came out of Egypt. It wasn't personal yet. Kriyas Yamsuf was the first time that the revelation was that you have to go through your tunnel. That's why, to answer his first question, why wasn't there just one tunnel for everyone? It's because each person's Sharish Neshama was in a different place, which will lead us perfectly to where he goes to right now. The Gemara says to find your zivug is like crossing the Red Sea. It's how we began. What do I do when I can't find my soulmate? Well, I might say, listen, God, when you help me find my soulmate, I'll donate $10 to Israel. So God says, please, you can do that without finding your soulmate, right? I have to promise God, I will build a little Beis HaMikdash. I have to promise God, my house will be one little holy place. This is maybe an Eitzah we should have said last night in Shir. To the Chevra there, he was saying something, an Eitzah. This is a clear Eitzah, clear advice for someone, and all the gates should open for everyone who's still waiting to build their Bayis Neman B'Yisrael. And everyone should find their zivugim with simcha and not yisurim. He's saying over here in Eitzah, okay, obviously whatever you're doing until now didn't bring you your zivug. Fine, Hashem still loves you. But what's the Eitzah? Is that now you have to come to the Rebbeinu Shalom and say, I'm willing to do something that I have not done yet. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is practically. But I know that I'm going to build something that never existed before, Rebbeinu Shalom. No matter what. Our version of Mikdash Me'at is going to be something that never existed before. Our version of a mini Beis HaMikdash in our Shabbos table, you never saw it. Trust me, you never ever saw this before. Friends, it's so hard to find another person who's on the same tunnel as you. Finding a beautiful girl, beautiful man, I can find. The question is, if you would turn back the clock to the tunnels at the Red Sea, do you think she or he would go down the same tunnel as you? Meaning to say, when it comes to the most important things in life on an individual level, does she really want the same thing? I'm not talking now about which carpet you want in the dining room and which you want in the bedroom. I'm talking about the deepest depths, the things that make you an individual. Does she want the same thing? What was one of them, and this is so beautiful, ending with this, 2 more minutes, which means 10. What was one of the main revelations the Baal Shem Tov brought down to the world? One person finds his tunnel in Belz, one in Lubavitch, one in Breslov. What does it mean? Why can't everyone be Bells? Why can't everyone be Lubavitch? Which, maybe some Lubavitches would like. They're still asking. Breslovers are not exactly not asking either. Let's call it spade for spade. Because each of us have a special neshama where they have to be. In the town of Sons, when someone would come for Shabbos, you have to say good Shabbos on Friday afternoon to check in, to be there for Shabbos. Then the Holy Tzanzer would say, your neshama is not part of my neshama. You're wasting your time. I'm not your Rebbe. But he would not say where to, meaning he would just say, your place isn't here. Okay? In Kumarna, it was so strong. The Heilige Kumarna would not only say, I'm not your Rebbe, he would also say, you have to go to Sadiger, to Zidichov, to Jikov. Jikov comes from Lubshitz. But look what he says here. Today, everybody wants to grab every Yid. Right? Isn't this deep what he said? It's so interesting. You rarely find someone, a Rav, a Rebbe, that when someone finally comes to him and gives him kavod, that he's willing to say, listen, your place is really not here. Right? I've heard very rarely of these. It does happen once in a blue moon that someone says to you, listen, your thing is not by me. But it takes such a Rebbe and it takes such an individual to be able to hear that as well. You know? Like, you want to do a Dibis Bodidus? Do his Bodidus on this. Ribbon Hashem, am I willing to go to that which I think my neshama is connected to? And Leman Shemcha be open enough to hear that maybe what I thought my neshama's shorish isn't, and not have any taina on the person that's telling me that, or on you. I once, there was one Rebbe I was going to for a long time, years ago. And I realized that after a while I was going because it was so special to be around the Hasidic Rebbe. I grew up with Brandon and Brenda from 90210. I didn't grow up with Hasidic Rebbes. So I'm around the Hasidic Rebbe, and I'm loving the fact that I'm by a Hasidic Rebbe. But there was nothing going on with the source of, with my Shoresh Neshama there. And once I realized that like, okay, it's so amazing to be around this, but this is not my Shoresh. Oh my God, it felt so good to leave. Not because it was bad for me, but it was like the first time I felt a little bit free in this world. Like, wow, I'm realizing this is not my Shoresh Neshama, and yeah, I won't be able to say, well, I just hung out with the so-and-so Rebbe, like I was able to say. But Geval, it was amazing. What an amazing thing. But like he says today, everyone wants to grab every Yid. You know, it's really like that. This is what Kriyas Yam Suf is all about. What the Baal Shem Tov brought down before Mashiach is coming is not only to be from and to serve God. You have to serve God in your way. But, Geval, you have to believe that you yourself have your own Nusach. And if you don't think that you are a chidush in this world, it's going to be really, really dull. It'll be really boring. And you probably will never end up mamish being a free person. A real free soul. A free soul. So first of all, we know that the days of Rebbes, real Rebbes, are done. And the real Rebbes of today, how do you know if you found the real Rebbe? If he also tells you that. That means maybe that's a Rebbe, right? Shchaz Hashem, we know of a few, right? But they themselves will say, you know, I'm your friend. Like, Rebbes didn't, you know, Reb Michal Zlotchev didn't tell his Chassidim, I'm your friend. A Rebbe was a Rebbe, and a friend was a friend. You know? It's Yud Shvat this week, one of my favorite days in the whole calendar. It's going to be the Yortzeit of the Frierdiker Rebbe, our Rebbe, Reb Shlomo's Rebbe. You didn't come to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he wouldn't tell you, Mamish, you're my friend. There was a Rebbe and there was a Talmud, and a Chassid. Obviously you felt like they were your friend, but it was a different ball game.
It's a one-way street.
Different, yeah.
Like you were getting from them, not able to give.
It's a different thing. It's a different thing. But today, you know, today we know that sometimes, maybe today, you have to work on finding your Shoresh Neshama. What Dibuk Chaverim is my Shoresh Neshama. What circle of friends is the root of my soul? Just like it would be with a Rebbe, because it's a different ballgame today. And I'm not saying not to fight, Obviously, we have the Amshon of a Rebbe is alive. We have some Rebbes that are still alive. Did you go yet? That means... it means Minias. So anyway, Kriyas Yamsuf, Koshin Zivugin Kriyas Yamsuf, all these incredible Taylach, but let's go back to where we started. That the Kotzker Rebbe says that every morning in Psukei de Zimra, davening is built in a way that when you start the ladder from Hodu, or if you're still davening Ashkenaz, Mizmor Shir, but whatever it is, that you start davening, you start escalating, you start going up and up and up. And right before the Yichudim begin with Kriya Shema, and Shemona Esrei, right before it starts getting really intimate and personal, there's a question. Are you willing to jump through are you willing to change? Are you willing to change that slave mentality from being part of the klal into a yachid, into your own thing? Because then if you're willing to say, I have my own shevet, I have my own nusach, I have my own way, please Rebbeinu Shalom, I'll do whatever it is it takes, but I have my own way, then you can say, Baruch Hu Shalom Baruch. And feel like, oh my God needs my Baruch Hu Hashem Baruch. The Rebbeinu Shalom needs him the way that he doesn't need, but the Rebbeinu Shalom wants that if I'm here already, and I'm not giving up, and the way that I say Baruch Hu Hashem Baruch has to be just the way that I say it, and no one else in the world. Are you listening to that nigun from last week? The new nigun? Last week or 2 weeks ago? Kadeshenu b'mitzvah yisecha v'sen chelkeinu v'soira secha sara bereinu mi'yituvecha v'samach nafsheinu v'yishua secha Kadeshenu b'mitzvah yisecha v'sen chelkeinu v'soira secha sara bereinu Samach nafsheinu Lemishua secha Oy v'taher libeinu Li'oiv lecha Be'emes 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 Ay la 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 Ay la 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 Ay la 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 Ay la 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 Ba da dum bum ba Da la 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 Ay la 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 Oh ay Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Daniel, for doing the video. Just a few quick announcements. A few things. This Thursday, I have to check the time, either 4 or 5 o'clock. We're doing a very special mini concert, Kabbalat Shabbat, in Hadassah Hospital. Bina, I told you about this? We spoke about it. You got a few phone calls, right? This Wednesday at, I think at 4 o'clock in Hadassah. I forgot exactly where, but if you come... Sorry, Thursday. Special Kabbalat Shabbat, this beautiful chevra. I'll tell you more about it. If you're interested, just message me. I'll let you know more about it. It's going to be very special. Motzei Shabbos will be a concert in Beit Shemesh. There's more. I'll send out a flyer. And then next Sunday night... When's the next show? Is it Sunday?
I think so.
Sunday night back in Simchat Shlomo at 7:30 for one last year on Tefillah for this month, and then next Monday night here. And then next Thursday night, a week from this Thursday, our dear friend Shira Pransky, Youre Shalom's Yortzeit. It's going to be a special shir next Thursday night in Lev Efrat in is it Rimon? Teina. I'll send out everything, but again, next week is Sunday Tefillah, Monday Parsha, and Thursday will be a special shir for Shira. And then a lot more things going on afterwards, but that's for now. All right? Shikar. Thank you so much for coming, everyone.